hopefully we'll need more tables as time goes on. Want to start out with some celebrations. Anybody recognize that young man holding the trophy? Charlie Taylor, catcher for the Tennessee Volunteers. When they had the Titans were named, they should have been like the Tennessee Professionals. You have the Tennessee Volunteers and the Tennessee Professionals. Thank you. They won the SEC championship, and they're going to host, I think they're the #1 team in the nation, and they will be able to host their Knoxville Regional and hopefully make it all the way to the World Series once again. But it's been fun for them to have such success in the 4 years that he has been there. The other celebration I don't have a slide for her, but Captain Jennifer Bowden, it was announced on Sunday, but Captain Jennifer Bowden, I think, is going to be like Rear Admiral Jennifer Bowden. I don't know that part for sure, but she has been named the head chaplain for the entire Coast Guard. And so that she just finished her second interview, and after the interview, they said, you're it. So that is real exciting. She was here last year and preached for Memorial Day. Have a great quote here from one of my Pittsburghers. Where is it? That one's not working. We are getting a new camera there. It burnt out the other day. Is it me?
No, it should be working.
There we go. I believe that appreciation is a holy thing, that when we look for what's best in a person, we happen to be within the moment. We're doing what God does all the time. So in loving and appreciating our neighbor, we're participating in something sacred. Fred Rogers. You see lots of Fred Rogers as you travel around the Pittsburgh area. I spent a few days in Pittsburgh last week, along with Brian Mudderman. He got there after I did. Still not happening here. I'm sorry. And I got to look that way. And those were my seats one day. They were pretty amazing. And the Pirates won the first game, and then we sent our best 2 pitchers in, and we hit grand slams in both of those games and lost both of those games to the Giants in either the 9th or the 10th inning. It was pretty demoralizing. And I know why it happened, because when it was the Giants' time to be up, they put something from Allegheny Health Network, and you can't really see it there, but that line, the green line, it says, "Celebrating everyone who's made a comeback," is what that says. So I tweeted that out, and I told someone who was connected to advertising there, I said, you don't need to celebrate everyone who makes a comeback when your team is behind. It is your fault that you lost. When you put that on the screen, you're bound to lose. Celebrating everyone who makes a comeback, not in good stead. So today we're going to talk about the power of dreams. We're talking about one of my favorite scripture passages. It's from Genesis 28th chapter, the 10th through the 22nd verses. It's the story of Jacob. And he stops in a certain place to spend the night there. And when he wakes from his sleep, he says the statement, "How awesome is this place? This is surely the house of the Lord, the very gate of heaven." And he names that place Bethel. And I remember when I first got here asking the question, how awesome is this place? And I've gotten to learn how awesome this place is over the past 4 years. I want you to listen for some of the text of hymns. You'll hear at least 2 hymns that the words for these hymns are part of the scripture passage. So take a listen for hymns from this text. And right now we're in a sermon series where we're learning all the texts the children are learning for Vacation Bible School. So we're not on the lectionary right now. We want to be immersed with our children. And some people say, well, I can't work with children. I don't know the stories, or I don't know what to teach them. Well, now you know. You will be walking through the 5 stories of Vacation Bible School over these next 5 weeks. So that if you haven't signed up for Vacation Bible School or VBX, you have no excuse now. I think we have plenty of help. Our church has been incredible about that. But this is God Goes with Jacob, and it's one of the stories there. We'll talk about Jesus going to the temple one week. We have the story of Ruth, And it's a whole theme called Camp Firelight, Summer Camp Adventure with God. And the theme verse is Psalm 56:3. Anybody know that one by heart? Bruce, you got that one? Just tip of your tongue, Psalm 56:3. Anybody? All right, Andy? It's the next slide, so I thought you might have it. Okay, let's read the first one together. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. That's what the children are going to be learning. When I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. And then at the one at the bottom there, the King James, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. So that's what they're going to be learning. And this is all of the stuff you'd ever want to know about Vacation Bible School. It's the 17th through the 20th. It's only Monday through Thursday. When I was growing up, it was a whole week. But now everybody leaves town on Friday, so it goes Monday morning through Thursday morning, and it's only half a day. If you can give one day, I'm sure Tamron would be glad to have your help. If we piece together as many people who want to serve, and this comes after Genesis 27. And you remember what happened. Jacob steals his brother's birthright in a sense. His father is going to give them a blessing, and his father is up in years and he can't necessarily see. And so he pretends to be his brother and he gets his brother's blessing. And after that blessing, there are consequences for him stealing his brother's blessing. And now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Now, what does that mean? He's going to die. My dad is going to die. Then I'll kill my brother Jacob. We'll see what kind of blessing that is. Then I will hunt down and kill my brother Jacob. But the words of the elder son Esau were told to Rebekah. Who was Rebekah? Their mom, right? So she sent and called her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. He's making himself feel a little bit better by planning to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran and stay with him a while your brother's fury turns away. Let your brother calm down. Let him get all this in perspective. You need to go away for a while until your brother anger turns away. Until your brother's anger against you turns away and he forgets what you've done to him. Then I will send and bring you back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? And so she's trying to make sure that her younger son is protected. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm weary of my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women, such as these, one of the local girls, one of the women of this land, what good will that be to me? And it's kind of a parallel story. You will see this a lot in Genesis. You will see a story told and then the story retold. You'll see the story of Noah and the ark. How many animals go on Noah's ark? 2 of every kind, right? And then you read it again and it's two of every kind and 7 sets of clean animals. Why is that? Sacrifice, because the priest read the first story and they're like, oh no, there are only 2 lambs. And when we got there and thanked God for those 2 lambs, we'd be in trouble. So the priest rewrite a second level of the story. And the second level of the story has 2 of every kind plus 7 of all the clean animals so that we can make sacrifice when we get to the next place. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him. And so he's already blessed him and charged him. And he says, so it feels like it's Jacob's idea. It feels like it's Isaac's idea. You shall not marry one of the Canaanite women, one of the Hittites who's driving your mother crazy. Go at once to Padam Aram, which is the area where Haran is. And I'll show you a map here in just a second. To the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as a wife from one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and numerous, that you may be a company of peoples. May he give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your offspring with you, so that you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien. Which land is that? Israel. So they're in Israel at this point. So that you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, land that God gave to Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padam Aram, to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mom. So he takes this trek from below Jericho in Beersheba. He goes from Beersheba all the way up to Padam Haran, which is one translation is land between the rivers. And isn't that what Mesopotamia is? The land between the rivers. And so he goes back to where Abraham is from. He goes back to where Rebekah and Isaac are from, and he makes that long trek, hours and hours north. And this is where our story for today begins. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padam Aram to take a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he charged him, you shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. They want to make this really clear. He's not going to marry one of the Canaanite women, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Padan Aram. So when Esau saw the Canaanite women did not please his father Isaac, Esau went to Ishmael and took Mahalath, daughter of Abraham, son of Ishmael, and sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife, in addition to the wives he had. And you might remember some of this, it's more like a family bush than a family tree. It kind of starts, you've got Abraham, and Abraham has Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac marries Rebekah. And then we've got the next generation, Jacob and Esau, and Jacob is moved up north to find a wife, but then he gets tricked. Yes, sir. Not all this, but you just have to show up and hold somebody's hand. But I want to make sure you have all the background. So when the kids ask you, now who's related to who, tell me about, Laban and Rebekah. But this just to visualize it to help you. And you could also see where the surrounding tribes come from. This family tree is a Catholic resource, and you see that Lot has two daughters. One become the Moabites, one become the Ammonites. And you see that Lot is, connected to his own daughters there. You see Ishmael with the Arabs and the Ishmaelites. You got Esau, who was red and ruddy, and his descendants are the Edomites that are also a red people. And then you've got Jacob, from whom the Israelites come from these two wives, as well as perhaps other maids. So that gives you a little sense of the family tree. And that gets us to our text for today. Our text for today, that's just the background that you need to be ready for the text. And it starts out, Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. It's a long trip. Beersheba is just straight across from Gaza. You've been hearing all about Rafah this week. So you see where Rafah is. Rafah is, see if I can use this right there. You see Rafah? This is where the encampment was bombed yesterday or the day before. And then you go straight across, and this is Beersheba. It's kind of at the bottom of Israel. There's the Israeli Air Force Museum is there. And then he made his way this long trek, and he's headed back to Mesopotamia, to modern day Turkey. And so this is the trip that he would have been making. He would have been walking all this way up along the Jordan River, all the way here to modern day Haran in Turkey. So it was quite a long trip. A dangerous walk, certainly a dangerous walk. And then this is what happened. He came to a certain place, and he stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a stairway set on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring, and your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth. And you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Okay, here we have allusions to this promised land, a land that we're still fighting over and still fighting about. And this is part of the promise of the land, the covenant of the land that they're trying to live into this promise that the God of Abraham would bring them back to the land that was promised and that their offspring would be like the dust of the earth. Now, in this translation, it calls it a stairway. Did you see that? And they stood beside him, and he dreamed that there was a stairway set upon the earth. Now, how did you learn that as a child? You didn't learn about the stairway to heaven. You learned about Jacob's ladder. You learned about Jacob's ladder, right? And and why was it Jacob's ladder instead of Jacob's staircase? Because when you translate into German, when you translate the Bible in an area like Germany, you don't have a lot of stone staircases up. You use a wooden ladder. And you'll find many of the things that are translated that we see in our mind's eye as wood are really stone. So like the manger that Jesus is laid in is probably hewn from stone, but what do we see in our mind? A wooden manger. So the same thing is going on here. Instead of a wooden ladder, the Hebrew talks more of a grand staircase. And you're ahead of me there, Lee. You know, a stairway to heaven that you may have remembered. The cathedral at Bath takes Jacob's ladder and makes it the beginning and the front of the cathedral. So you can see on either side of the cathedral in Bath that the angels are ascending and descending up and down the ladder on either side of the cathedral. And because this is the house of God, the very gate of heaven is what Abraham calls it. And what an appropriate image to use the ladder going up and down. But one of the interesting things they had to figure out is when you climb a ladder and you go up and down the same way, right? So the artists were trying to figure out, how do we do ascending and descending on the ladder? Another slide, please. Yeah, so they had them looking up and looking down. So they have the angels going down, and because they have wings, they're facing down, and the other ones are facing up. So they were trying to show angels descending and angels ascending, which is pretty brilliant for, you know, stone artisans hundreds of years ago to be able to show ascending and descending on the ladder, going up and down. But what we're trying to be told here that this is a thin place. This is a place where heaven and earth meet. And there's a way between them as the angels come ascending and descending on what may be a stone staircase as opposed to a ladder. And this just gives you a sense of where we are. We start below Bethlehem. You see Gaza there on the left. We start below Hebron and Bethlehem, Beersheba. It's not there on the map, but you can visualize that it's down there across from Gaza. And he heads north and he heads north, and he finally gets to right there in the middle of the map above Jerusalem, Bethel. And this is where our story takes place. Then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." I've always said this is one of the sadder lines in the Bible, that God was moving somewhere and he did not know it. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And Jacob was afraid. Why do you think Jacob was afraid that the presence of the Lord was there? Typical reaction. Yep. Something beyond his knowledge, something beyond his ability. Foreboding of something that might happen, you know. He hasn't always been the greatest person. You know, he hasn't always been the greatest person, and to be in the presence of the Lord might be problematic for him. He's been known as the trickster throughout his life, and he tricks his brother, and he's also heel grabber, the one who grabs onto his brother's heel as the twins are taken forth from the womb. And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So he did not recognize that God was present in that place. But here in this moment, he didn't know it, but now he begins to recognize that God is at work there. And then Jacob rose early the next morning, and he took the stone that he put under his head, and he set it up for a pillar and poured oil on the top as a way to commemorate that moment. He took that stone as a pillow, he turned it on his side, and when he turned it on his side, he poured oil on it to anoint it, to make this a holy place. And he called that place Bethel, changing the name of the city that was there, which was Luz at first. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. He's trying to make a deal with God. If God will be faithful to me, if God will take care of me, then I will take care of him. It's like my grandfather said to me. He said, Philip, if you'll take care of me when I'm old, I'll take care of you when you're old. It's a good deal, right? If you take care of me, but his words and his wisdom have continued to echo for me, so that I may come again to my father's house in peace. This is his prayer, that he wants to be able to come home in peace. And it's this if-then statement. If God will be with me, then and will keep me and go with me and give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I may go home in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I've set up for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will surely give 1/10 to you. And that name continues to echo. You see lots of houses of worship that are called Bethel, right? You got Big Bethel downtown, right? You've got Mount Bethel just north of us. And that becomes a word over and over again that is used to symbolize the presence and the house of God. So I've got a couple questions for you around this text. The first is, have you ever given or received a blessing? And is there a blessing you need to offer to someone? Number two, has God ever spoken to you in a dream, or have you felt like God was sending you somewhere? And if so, how did you respond? Number three, where's the holiest place you've ever been? What made it holy? And number four, why do some people struggle giving away 10% of what has been entrusted to them? That's what he says at the very end. This is sort of the establishment of the tithe from the very beginning. And this stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house, and all that you give me, I will surely give 1/10 to you. Got it? All right, discuss among yourselves. I'm sure they'll let you sit at their tables there.